Chapter 6: The Eastern Nakup Region.
Get ready to embark on an epic expedition through my imagination as I explore the Instagram acclaimed Leweka Region within 3 new ongoing series here on my YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with these adventures, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course leave a comment down below to let me know what you think and what Pokemon you decide to capture on your adventures. And of course, please make sure to support all of the talented artists I commissioned and worked intimately with to bring all of my ideas to life, as I wouldn't be able to take you on all these exciting adventures through my imagination without their help. As well as all of the amazing voice actors featured in this series, so each chapter I'd like to give you the opportunity to get to know them as I ask them a new question relating to Leweka. So please make sure to stay till the end of the video to check that out.
My dear niece and nephew, young Anaya and Chidi, please have a seat. Your Uncle Obasi would like to tell you a tale. It won't be long before you two are old enough to succeed your father as champion of the Leweka region. A role that, unlike other regions, comes with great responsibility as ruler of Leweka citizens. As king or queen, it'll be up to you to look after both the fine people and all the miraculous Pokemon that call Leweka home. And as you know, Leweka is by far the largest of Pokemon regions.
This is because Leweka is made up of what used to be 6 neighboring Pokemon regions.
Show off.
To the south, you have the Karoo and the Florofimbos of the Ukuvu region, painting the Cape's coast. Upward, you have the vast jungle and swamps of the Takati region. To the west, you have the sprawling savannas and wastelands of the Awago region. To the north, you have the ancient secrets hidden beneath the arid deserts of the Akam region. To the east, you have the Nakup region's mountainous tundras surrounding Mount Mbinjaro. And last but not least, off the east coast, you have a miraculous island full of rainforest and wetlands, known as the Wikwa region. This is the legend of how the kingdom of Leweka was formed. To the unification of these 6 ancient regions thanks to our brave ancestors.
You mean the first Baobab?
Don't forget champion.
That is correct, young ones. This is also the story of how the Baobab Bloodline, our noble family, came into power. Alright children, so we are nearing the end of this story. As our ancestor and their friends from the various tribes had escaped the Divine Pokémon and ventured into the neighboring Nakup region, to the east in search of shelter high atop Mount Mbinjaro.
So what was the Nakup region like?
Well, the region is home to various biomes such as the flooded grasslands and volcanic grasslands at the base of Mount Mbinjaro, along with refreshing hot springs, moorlands and montane forests. Of course, there were also various rocky terrains, snowy tundras, and a series of gem-filled caves throughout Mount Mbinjaro, which was an active volcano at this time, housing various fierce fire tribe Pokemon within its magma crater.
Oh wow! But it is no longer active today, is it?
No, the volcano has since gone dormant, so this volcanic biome was unique to this time, but we'll get more into that later. It's important to note that this mountainous region is slightly colder than the other kingdoms, especially atop the towering Mount Mbinjaro, high within the clouds with its peak coated in snow. Naturally, that made this region home to a lot more Ice Tribe Pokemon than any of the previous regions, in which most Ice Tribe Pokemon would only appear when the scorching sun would go down and things would cool off. This was still the case in the Nakup region, down below at the base of Mount Mbinjaro, or the region's lowland areas, with even more Ice Tribe Pokemon appearing such as Sneasel and Weavile, in addition to various Dark Tribe Pokemon such as the regional Yungoos line, found in Leweka today, Purloin and Liepard, Stunky and Stucktank, Zorua and Zoroark, and some Pokemon we haven't discussed yet, such as Woobat and Swoobat, as well as electric-type native shining in the darkness, Kagalago with its eerie big eyes, and Beelzebub with its glowing tail.
How delightful! All of these Pokemon sound amazing, but I can't wait to discuss more Ice-type Pokemon, as we haven't seen all that many due to Leweka's warmer climate. Let me see. We've seen a lot of Lewekan Hoothoot, Noctowl, and the Frigolith line at night within all the other regions, and the Weevil line as well if I recall correctly, as well as Lapras out at sea or in the Takati region's secret spring. Smocham and Jinx are found in the Clearo Seed Cave in the Ukuvu region. Nuso and Childebeest in the Iwago region, Cloyster and the Spearline in the Akem region's beaches, so more ice-type Pokémon are long overdue.
I couldn't agree more. It's a marvel that Leweka is so full of many wondrous biomes among its 6 kingdoms. One thing the Nakup region did have in common with the other 5 kingdoms was the fact that Leweka's starter trio, Girut, Hasir, and Jimfan, could still be found in the wild within the region. The Girut line in the volcanic grasslands, the Hasir line within the volcano's crater, and the Jimfant line within the flooded grasslands area. With other familiar faces such as Pikachu and Eevee, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, the Jerbean and Perkashell lines, Chibi and Laverne lines, and the various other Pokemon found throughout the region. And our ancestor would be able to call upon the previous ride Pokemon they acquired to traverse the region, like Okuvi and Zebstrika to gallop through the region or leap onto ledges, Vertival's vines to climb cliffs and trees, Iwagoi and Flygon's ability to soar through the sky,
Whoa!
and Akemi and Hariyama's ability to smash or move boulders of rock or ice.
Is everything okay, Uncle Obasi? You keep looking at your phone.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I was just waiting on a call from the colleague I was speaking with earlier.
The one who called with important Pokemon business? Are any Pokemon in danger?
Why yes, that's the one. And no, I don't believe so. I think we may just have uncovered a hidden tomb we hope to explore. Who knows what we can find inside.
How cool! Hopefully plenty of treasure. If you find a Soul Ankh or a Soul Stone, you better give it to me, because I'd love to be able to use Pokemon Rebirth one day.
Forget treasure. Just think of all the wondrous Pokemon you could find. Maybe a thought-to-be extinct species like the Akemi and Nakli line from the last chapter? Do you think we could possibly go to explore it with you?
I'm sorry, but I don't think your Baba would allow it. Tombs are very dangerous places. You never know what to expect. Curses, scary Pokemon, booby traps.
Chidi!
In fact, why I'd rather you not tell him about this conversation entirely. I think it would upset him to hear we even discuss something so dangerous. So please, whatever you do, don't mention the tomb to him. I wouldn't want him to get upset with me and forbid me from being able to watch you two like this from time to time.
What?
No!
We'd never let that happen.
We love you, Uncle Abasi, even if your stories drag on forever.
Okay, I can take a hint.
Don't worry, Uncle Obasi. We won't say a thing to anyone. You have my word.
Please don't break this promise. If you can manage to keep this all a secret, maybe one day when you're older, I'll reward you by taking you to explore this hidden tomb.
Yay!
I'd love nothing more.
Yes, please!
Very well then. I'll hold you two to your end of the bargain, and in 10 years, you can hold me to mine.
You have yourself a deal.
I'm sure Mama has explored lots of tombs. I mean, how else would she have acquired all those artifacts for the museum she runs within her Pokemon gym?
Precisely. I'm sure she has explored far more tombs than you could possibly imagine.
Anaya, enough about Mama. If she doesn't have time for us, we shouldn't waste any of our time talking about it.
Chidi, you don't mean that. I understand you're upset, but Mama loves us very much.
So much so, she decided to change her name, move to the other end of Leweka, and run a ghost Pokemon gym dressed up as the grown version of the long mummified queen Amunet from the story.
You mean our ancient ancestor Amunet? Mama and the two of us are descendants of her, so why shouldn't Mama dress up like her and have a little fun? Her gym is a museum after all, with the main exhibit revolving around Queen Amunet. It's theater, Chidi.
It's creepy is what it is. I mean, she doesn't even talk like herself anymore outside of that dusty old gym of hers. She takes her job a little too seriously.
That's called method acting, Chidi.
I don't care what it's called. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Now let's continue with the story already. I'd like to get to the end before Baba gets home.
I concur, young Chidi.
All right then. I am curious to know what happened next. Where did our ancestor and their companions end up going after arriving in the eastern Nakup region?
The group decided it was best to head directly to Mount Mbinjaro, as they wouldn't truly feel safe until they found refuge with the people of the Nakup tribe.
In the volcano?
No, of course not. Not the very top where the crater was found or the peaceful snow-covered city of Angazamo today, home to Wives, Winter, and Winda's Ice or Flying Tribe Gym, as they each take turns running the gym and give you a different variation of the summit badge. However, at this time, the people of the Nakup tribe hadn't yet built Angazamo City, as the peak of the mountain was still very active and too dangerous to live near.
I mean, to be honest, if the mountain was an active volcano, even living as close as they did on the mountain was quite dangerous.
You're not wrong, but living so high above the clouds made them feel safe from the wrath of the Divine Pokémon.
As if Horse Guy couldn't just fly up there.
Didn't it rule over the sky after all? And Satara is the ruler of the land. It's a giant mountain!
Well, they weren't only living near the top of the mountain, but within a series of caves to protect them from the cold.
Until the volcano erupts and lava comes rushing in.
Thankfully, that never seemed to happen, or if it did, no one seemed to be harmed. Anyways, before making it to the top of Mount Mbinjaro, there were plenty of lowland areas our ancestor and company had to traverse first, starting with the flooded grasslands.
Makes sense, given they are right at the border of the Divine region, having just made it across its river and wetland area. I'm assuming a lot of the same Pokemon species were found here due to their proximity to one another and the fact that they share such similar biomes.
Anaya, you never cease to amaze me. You are wise far beyond your years and you really seem to know your stuff.
Okay, we get it, she's smart. You two are such geeks. Stop making her head any bigger and get on with the story.
I would happily do so if you hadn't interrupted me. What I was trying to say, that the Pokemon found in this area were Pokemon such as the regional Claytle and Hippopotas lines, Englewing and Roylor, the Forgato line, and many others we discussed already could be found here, as well as some Pokemon we haven't discussed, such as Koufant and Copperija hanging out or in the water. These two Pokemon were also commonly found throughout the adjacent volcanic grasslands, along with a lot of the Pokemon found in the Iwago region's sprawling savanna, such as the Rorschach and Liepard lines, the Watchhog or Boreer lines, the Doduo or Giraffarig lines, the Pyro or Thunder lines. Of course, these grasslands were a lot smaller and therefore didn't have quite as many Pokemon. However, it had some of its own species due to the cooler climate, such as Nusno and Childebeest, who could be found spread across the grasslands in hordes. Oh, and how could I forget the Zappel line, which I know is one we already discussed countless times already, but it actually has a third evolution we have yet to discuss, Kuductor, still a part of the electric and steel tribes like its previous stage.
It looks so much stronger now.
But it is just as majestic. Look at those gorgeous horns. Why are you just now bringing it up?
Good question. The stage wasn't obtainable until this point in our ancestors' journey, as it required a new item, the Thunderhorn, which they would only come across here in the Nakup region.
Ah, that makes sense. Is this item and third stage still accessible in Leweka today?
It is indeed.
Yay! I can't wait to one day catch one.
Our ancestor and the rest of their companions next found themselves at the region's hot springs. While they were still on the run from the Divine Pokémon and didn't have a lot of time, they were quite exhausted at this point and needed to stop to rest for a bit.
And what better place to do so than in a hot spring?
Precisely. They even encountered a bunch of new Pokémon while enjoying the hot springs. Pokémon such as Fire and Water Tribe Searimp and Lobstu, native to the Fearon region, in the water enjoying the hot springs. Turtonator relaxing by the springs, Sizzlipede and Centiskorch slithering around. The explosive Chardvark and Bombadillo roaming around the area, Pupyro flying around in its evolution Volcrane whiting in the warm waters, as well as plenty of Rock Tribe Roly-Coly and its Fire Tribe evolutions rolling around.
Wow! So many Fire Tribe Pokemon!
I'm sure they were drawn to the heat found within the ground of these hot springs. While enjoying the hot springs with the rest of their companions and all of their Pokemon partners, our ancestor even had another moment with Healer Sanyu in the hot springs. Looking up at Mount Mbinjaro in the background, admiring its beauty, she thanked him for rescuing her. But this bittersweet moment was purposely interrupted by Ganiru, who couldn't help but bring attention to how awkward things were between them, causing both of them to blush.
Aw, how cute!
Bros, I'm ready for another Pokemon battle. It's been a while.
Well, you're in luck, as our ancestor and their friends, after making it to the moorlands, encountered a member of the Nakup tribe. This rocky uphill area along the base of the mountain housed various ground tribe Pokémon, such as Diglett and Dugtrio, Famfi and Dumbfan, Silicobra and Sandaconda, the more traditional ground tribe variant of Mudbray and Mudsdale, the Cantonian Rhyhorn line, and plenty of other rock tribe Pokémon as well, such as Hyrox and Dastone, the Roggenrola line, Nosepass and Probopass, as well as the adorable single-stage Pokémon Palbo from the Frieran region, which in its stacked form was a total behemoth.
What a cutie! In its smaller form, of course. Its stacked form is a little scary looking.
You're not entirely wrong. This area was and well is also home to the Nakup region's infamous giant groundsel tree, a massive alien-looking tree that almost looks like a cactus or pineapple found only in the upland areas of Mount Mbinjaro, with flying tribe Pokémon such as Hoot Hoot or Swablu and Altaria often perched on top of them. Often flying tribe Pokémon could be found along the mountain such as Skarmory and Pheasant, P-Shock, Woobat and Swoobat. But these giant groundsel trees are just as iconic to Mount Mbinjaro as some of the elusive Pokémon species.
How cool! Leweka doesn't only have a variety of unique Pokémon species, but plant species as well. So, tell us more about this new tribe member they encountered.
And more importantly, their Pokemon battle.
Why, of course. Forgive me, I got carried away discussing the Pokémon. Juma is thought to be an ancestor of Ice Tribe Gym Leader Winter, and like her specialized in Ice Tribe Pokémon, as he was in possession of Elemage's Ice Tribe Wand.
Another one? How many of these tribe wands are there?
Why, 18 of course. One for every Pokémon tribe.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Despite his tough appearance, Juma was a gentle giant. Like most of the peaceful Nakup tribe, Juma was cool and collected, loving just about it in every person and Pokémon he met. He would give the shirt off his back to a complete stranger.
He sounds like a real sweet guy.
He really was, but was still protective of his people, much like his leader Jabari. So naturally, he challenged you to a Pokémon battle to ensure you could be trusted. His team of Ice Tribe Pokémon included Pokémon we've yet to discuss, but I'll be getting to in a bit. Known as Porcalpine and his ace, Childebeest.
The Pokémon from the last chapter. Its snow coat never melts, even in the region's warmer areas, as its sweat freezes.
That's the one, but what I didn't tell you is that it has a formidable rebirth form that Juma was able to call upon using a Soul Ankh.
Oh wow! It resembles Mount Mbinjaro.
It does indeed. And while most Ice Tribe Pokémon are known to have fragile defenses, this Pokémon could really hold its own in battle. However, this didn't stop our ancestor from defeating Juma, who, after seeing the rest of the gang arrive to witness the end of the battle, jumped for joy after seeing Professor Acacia, running to give him a big hug, picking him up and spinning him around. Professor Acacia laughed with joy, clearly happy to see his old friend as well.
And how did they know each other exactly?
Well, Acacia, as I said earlier, was the closest thing they had to a Pokémon professor at this time, so he had already ventured into most of the other kingdoms to conduct his Pokémon research, or seek out rare artifacts much like his descendant, Lenora. Turns out the people of the Nakup tribe welcomed Acacia with open arms when he was last in the region. He even did a drum ceremony for them with his percushell and temple drums, much like the ones his descendant Djembe does today. So Juma said a friend of Acacia's is a friend of his, as he offered to lead them up the mountain to the Nakup tribe. First, they had to make it through the mountain's montane forest, housing a variety of Pokémon such as Lewekan Yungoos and Gumshoos and Alcapus found in Leweka today, Apalm or Ambipalm climbing around. The fairy tribe Hatina and Impidip lines can be found throughout the forest alongside Shanatic lines and Fortress lines at the base of the trees, in addition to plenty of Ice Tribe Pokémon such as Sneasel and Weavile, Snover and Abomasnow, Hoot Hoot, Noctile or Snom and Frostmoth, all perched in the snowtop trees. This forest was also home to Munchlax, Snorlax, and their now extinct evolution, the ginormous Ruthlax, who had become a member of the Dark Tribe after evolving. While its pre-evolutions Munchlax and Snorlax are known to be quite lazy and docile, this evolution was anything but, unable to relax as the slightest disturbance would agitate it and cause it to go berserk.
Oh, so it was grumpy. Sounds like it needed more sleep.
Or it could be hangry.
Whatever the case, It wasn't particularly friendly, but was quite powerful. It even had its own signature move, Savage Strike, that did double damage if it was hindered by a status condition such as frostbite, burn, paralysis, drowsiness, or being poisoned. So its discomfort and short fuse was in many ways its greatest weapon. Druma told our ancestor while Professor Acacia ventured through the mountain he was able to use this normal tribe wand to command Ruthlax as a ride Pokémon, using it not only to traverse an area with deep snow that they physically not be able to make it through otherwise, but to sniff and dig out rare items buried in the ground or snow.
How useful! So now that our ancestor had Acacia's normal tribe wand, were they able to use Ruthlax as a ride Pokémon as well?
Yes, and that was exactly what our ancestor ended up doing after Druma shared this information with them, as they used Ruthlax to help them progress further up the mountain. As the higher they climbed up the mountain, the deeper the snow would get. But before they could get any further, they had to go through a massive series of caves within Mount Mbinjaro, known as the Transanip Caverns. An icy cavern with giant icicles hanging from the ceiling, and ice mazes our ancestor had to slide across, as well as large crystals and other gemstones like tanzanite, which to this day is sought out by people all over the world, as these caves are now mined for such minerals. Although, even at the time of this tale, you had Pokemon such as the Leweka native Rock and Steel tribe Toddler line mining for these gems. Even the crystals found along their bodies seem to resemble the tanzanite stone, as apparently they mine for it so they can continue to add to their rock bodies.
How fascinating! So they were diamonds in the rough. I'm assuming there were plenty of other rock tribe Pokémon found here as well, like Onyx, Carbink, the Roggenrola, and Roly-Coly lines?
Yes, all of the above were also found in these caverns, alongside other Pokémon such as Sableye and Mawile, Orthworm and Oroworm, Woobat and Swoobat, Drillbur and Exadrill, and the Loudred line. These caverns were also home to the Dragon tribe Pokémon such as Drunnigan, Drampa, the Ice tribe Baxcalibur line, or the Steel tribe Ocarine line guarding the cavern's treasure. And of course, plenty of Ice tribe Pokémon such as the Snorunt line or Bergmite and Avalugg, with the most notable Pokémon found in these caverns being a regional variant of Glimmet and Glamora, unique to the colder regions of the Nakup region. Nakupi and Glimmet, being a member of the Ice and Poison tribes, like its variant today, was often mistaken for a flower, but when touched would produce poisonous powder from within its icy petals.
Not only does it look like a flower, but it also kind of looks like a snowflake.
Why, you know what? You're absolutely right. How interesting indeed. It evolved into Nakupi and Glamora, who was a member of the Ice and Poison tribe, keeping its icy petals which house the same toxic powder and other dangerous substances within its ice, much how icebergs are known to house various diseases. When this Pokemon detected danger, it would open up its crystalline petals and shoot concentrated beams of ice, freezing its target solid. It even had a signature move known as Virulent Ice, which was an ice-type move that rather than freezing the target, would badly poison them.
Whoa, I'd never expect a Pokemon like that to be so dangerous.
You know what they say, young Chitty? You can't judge a book by its cover.
Why not? That's the only part of the book I'll read.
The sad part is, he's not even kidding.
After making it to the end of the cavern, our ancestor met up with Druma, who introduced them to the members of the Nakup tribe, who were living within the caverns in order to stay warm and hide from the Divine Pokémon. However, tribe leader Jabari and a few other tribe members had recently started to climb higher up the mountain to set up a new base which would eventually end up becoming the festive town of Angazamo. So our ancestor, after introducing themselves to the Nakup tribe, exited the cave and progressed further up the mountain in search of Jabari, who was apparently trying to calm the monarch Pokemon within Mount Mbinjaro's volcanic crater. Apparently, thanks to this Pokemon, the volcano was on the verge of erupting, and if it did, it would destroy their home on top of the mountain.
Well, that's no good. I'm sure our ancestor was happy to help them stop this monarch Pokemon.
Indeed, but they still had ways to go before making it to the crater found at the peak. After exiting the cavern, they found themselves in a tundra area covered in deep snow. So they had to call upon their newly obtained ride Pokemon Ruthlax to traverse a lot of this area's snowy slopes, which of course were home to even more Ice Tribe Pokemon, many of which we've already discussed like Noctowl, Frostmoth, Weavile or Abomasnow, in addition to newcomers such as Ice-Q or Jinx, not to mention Leweka natives such as the Scrappy Chevette. who would stay warm using its elegant fur coat laced with icy crystals. Or Porcalpine, whose body is covered in razor-sharp icy quills it would use to defend itself from predators. Or the fairy tribe Pixero, Yumber, and Frigilif, which could be found gracefully fluttering around in the snowfall dancing atop snowflakes. Frigilif even has a regal rebirth form used today by Gym Leader Winter, and I'm sure would have proven to be a great asset on our ancestors' team. This area was also home to Snorunt in its evolutions Glalie, Frostlast, and Lost evolution Sleetot, as it can only evolve into this stage using an item found buried in the snow, the Ice Mask.
Now that's a Pokemon I'd love to get my hands on.
Sleetot was a member of the Ice and Steel tribes, wearing a sturdy ice mask made of snow and sleet it would collect from the sky. This mask wouldn't melt even near the magma crater atop Mount Mbinjaro, and like its peers it could manipulate ice and the temperature around it. Sleetot also had a signature attack, Hailstorm, which was a steel-type attack that would trap opponents in a brutal hailstorm for several turns, potentially leaving them with the Frostbite status. This Pokemon was even a part of Tribe Leader Jabari's team now, as after traversing the Tundra they'd find him but want nothing to do with him, after their last encounter and knowing the trouble they'd bring to his people. So he challenged them to a Pokemon battle requesting that they leave the Nakup region after losing.
Our ancestors beat him once before, they could do it again.
Well, his team had grown a lot stronger since their last battle, as he wanted to prepare for battle against the Divine Pokémon if they ended up attacking. Not to mention, thanks to our ancestor, he now had the Monarch Pokémon Tritanium and its powerful rebirth form as his secret weapon, both of which he'd end up using against our ancestor in battle. This was said to be a challenging fight, as Jabari believed a strong offense started with a strong defense, as his Steel Tribe Pokémon could brush off the strongest of attacks with ease, but ultimately, your ancestor still won. Jabari apologized for backing out on everyone last minute like he did, reiterating the fact that he was just terrified by what we witnessed from the Divine Pokémon back in the Leweka Region and couldn't risk involving his people, as he'd never forgive himself if anything ever happened to them. However, he was relieved and impressed to see that Hilasanyu and Tribe Leader Diallo had since been rescued, as it proved to him that maybe the Divine Pokémon weren't unstoppable after all, giving him some hope, as he gave our ancestor his Steel Tribe wand as a gift to show his allegiance to their cause, saying he'd be happy to lead the Nakup people and fight alongside the remaining tribes against the Divine Pokémon, as he was tired of living in constant fear, as he realized it was only a matter of time until they came to conquer his kingdom.
Yay! I knew he'd end up doing the right thing in the end.
Although this joyous moment was cut short, as the ground began to shake violently, as the volcano began to erupt with smoke and fire seen blasting out of its mouth up above. Jabari looked at our ancestor, asking them to try to calm this monarch Pokemon and save his people before it was too late. Of course they agreed, as Jabari, Tuma, Hilasanyu, and Diallo helped the remaining members of the Nakup tribe head to safety back in the Transinip Caverns, while Ganiro, having learned that the king of the crater was of the Dragon tribe, rushed ahead to help fight the monarch Pokemon, hoping to add it to his team.
So our ancestor went into a volcano as it was about to erupt? They really were fearless.
That is correct. They ventured to the volcano's crater, which was covered in rivers and pools of magma, housing a variety of fire tribe Pokemon, such as Magmar, the Slugmarline, Larvesta and Volcarona, and Pyro, and of course Leweka natives such as Shardvark and Bombadillo, Pyro flying around the crater, or Volcrane wading in the pools of lava. Or Fire and Ground tribe Magmo tunneling through the crater, creating lava tunnels to redirect the flow of the magma.
Oh my! It's so ugly, it's cute!
Why does it look like that? It doesn't have any fur.
That's because Magmo's body temperature is said to be so hot, it can't grow any fur.
Well, it would have to be in order for it to tunnel through molten lava like that. The things Pokemon can do never cease to amaze me.
The crater was also home to a few other Pokemon, such as the Rhyhorn or Colossal line, Cragogano or its counterpart from the Fearon region, Pyrogogano, floating through the sky, and one of Leweka's two fossil Pokemon which can be restored from the Spine fossil today, Rock and Fire tribe Brazor and Spinosaur, both of which could be found swimming through the pools of magma. Spinosaur even has a powerful rebirth form upon being resurrected, like its counterpart Membrane seemingly losing its rock typing.
Yo, now that's a Pokemon. I need to get my hands on one of those fossils.
The most notable species found in the crater, however, were Fire tribe variants of the Dreepy line, that could also be found swimming through the crater's lava.
I thought ancient variants of the Dreepy line were thought to be water types and lived in the sea.
And that is true, but this ancient variant seemed to have developed even further, being able to live in underwater volcanoes that eventually ended up surfacing over time to form volcanoes such as this one. This line starts with Nakupian Dreepy. This Pokemon may not look very strong, and on its own it really wasn't, but together with help of its friends, it could be quite dangerous. What they lacked in power, they made up for in speed. Groups of Dreepy would fly at high speeds over Mount Mbinjaro's crater and poke at Pokemon in the magma for fun. Like today, it would evolve into Dracloak. It was capable of flying faster than 120 miles per hour, even underground through thick magma. Like the undead Dracloak found today, it would battle alongside Dreepy and mentor them until they successfully evolved. Nakupian Dragapult lived deep within the Earth's mantle alongside Dreepy and Dracloak. It has a miniature volcano on its head, housing Dreepy that would launch out at Mach speed after erupting. After evolving into Nakupian Dragapult, it would gain a new attack. In addition to today's variant of Dragapult's signature move Dragon Darts, it had a second signature move Fire Darts, which launched several Dreepy cloaked in fire in quick succession. This Pokemon also had a rebirth form. Reborn with even more firepower, it was faster and stronger than ever before. It just so happened to be the monarch responsible for causing the volcano's eruption. According to what Jabari had previously told them, it became territorial, agitated after spotting the Nakup tribe, who had just recently started to venture that far up the mountain to the crater. It must have been trying to protect its family. Regardless, its reaction caused it to jet around within the volcano, triggering the eruptions, which had been getting progressively worse.
Sounds like it was just frightened.
So our ancestor battled this monarch in the heart of the crater with help from Ganiru, who lent them his Dragon Tribe wand to help weaken it, as it could shoot magical blasts of draconic energy helping to trigger a Pokemon battle. But outside of battle, our ancestor had a variety of things to contend with, such as falling into the pools of magma, some of which would bubble up and erupt out at them, potentially harming them or burning the first Pokemon in their party. They also had to avoid Dragapult's swift attacks. It would soar through the sky and at our ancestor at breakneck speeds, making it nearly impossible to dodge, especially with such limited space. So they had to strike it with the draconic energy before it could lift off and start its assault. It would also launch a series of Dreepy missiles at our ancestor that were too quick to dodge, but could be derailed by shooting at them with the Dragon Tribe wand. Sometimes, it would direct its Dreepy missiles into the magma, causing a tidal wave of magma to unleash onto the battlefield. The most challenging part of this battle was how fast Dragapult and its attacks were. This, paired with the fact that it was almost untouchable while in the sky, meant that our ancestor had to really time their attacks and anticipate the ideal time to strike, while also paying close attention to their fiery surroundings. However, our ancestor was able to defeat the monarch just in the nick of time, and once they did so, they used Ganiro's Dragon Tribe wand to command it. As it dived deep into the crater, seemingly calming it and stopped the flow of magma, our ancestor then handed Ganiro their tribe wand back, and with it, control over this Pokemon, as they knew Ganiro was eager to add it to his team of dragon Pokemon.
Well, that was awfully nice of them. I would have kept it for myself.
Well, it was nice of him to let them use the Dragon Tribe wand in the first place.
Yeah.
So, now that our ancestor had stopped the Monarch Pokemon and convinced Jabari and the Nakup tribe to fight alongside them, what did they do next?
But don't forget, there is still one more kingdom we have yet to discuss.
There is?
The Wikwa region, a massive island region found off the east coast.
Oh, that's right. So how did our ancestors get all the way over there?
I'm getting there, children. After reuniting with the rest of their friends in the Nakup tribe, Jabari would tell our ancestor that if they plan to fight the Divine Pokémon, they still need to convince the people of the Wikwa region to fight alongside them and acquire the remaining tribe wands so they can summon the mythical Pokémon, Elemage.
Okay, but that doesn't answer my question. How did they get there?
Patience, young Chidi. I'm getting there. Jabari said he knew someone who may be able to help them sail to the Wikwa region, telling them to meet him down at the base of the mountain along the region's coast. So our ancestor did exactly that, and while traveling alongside the coast, encountered a variety of Pokemon such as the cunning dark and flying tribe Pirot and Capirot, Seagar and Seascore, Fanfi and Dunfan, their relatives Finnefi and Dunfinny, flocks of Wingull and Pelipper, Craballer and Crabominable burrowed in the sand, Clampearl or Shellos and Gastrodon along the shore, Whalmer and Wellord and schools of Magikarp, or even Gyarados and Lapras out at sea.
So, what did Jabari have in mind? I'm assuming it was another ride Pokemon used to surf?
What an excellent assumption, Anaya. And while our ancestor did end up eventually acquiring a ride Pokemon to help them do exactly that on their journey, they had not yet made that acquisition. Instead, they had to hitch a ride with a group of pirates, since the Nakup region was full of pirates at this time. In fact, they still exist in Leweka today under the moniker Team Plunder.
Wait, are these the same pirates our ancestors saw in the last chapter?
That is correct. Led by Sifu, an ancestor to Dark Tribe gym leader Khalid and his absent father, and leader of Team Plunder today, Captain Gallows, who was lost at sea, along with the rest of his pirate crew years ago.
How sad.
It's very sad indeed. I know Khalid has spent the majority of his life at the lighthouse in Wastria City, waiting for his father to return home. This, however, is the life of a pirate. That being said, their ancestor Sifu wasn't scared of anything, as he used his Water Tribe wand to command the ruthless Water Tribe Pokémon. His ace was the Savage Veshark, a Ghost and Water Tribe Pokémon and a natural enemy of Crockhurst, despite both being of the same tribes. They are both enormous Pokémon. Veshark the size of a small ship, Crockhurst big enough to sink large ships. Both also had powerful rebirth forms that made them even bigger than before, after being resurrected by the arcane power of Pokémon Rebirth. Both Veshark and Crockhurst could be found far off the coast of the Nakup region, along with other Water Tribe Pokémon such as Diminifin, Brandfish, Mantine and Octillery, Skrelp in its revered Dragon Tribe evolution, Dragalge, Huntail and Goribus, as well as Delmise and its Leweka counterpart, Misfortune, both of which were often found at sunken ships far out at sea. Our ancestor met many of these Pokémon as they set sail with Sifu and his pirate crew, along with various other Pokémon found on some of the smaller islands that they explored on their voyage.
I thought pirates couldn't be trusted.
Well, that is what they say, and exactly what Jabari told our ancestor. While he knew these pirates would be willing to do him a favor and get our ancestor to the Wikwa region, they owed him a favor. They still couldn't be trusted, and our ancestor needed to be alert at all times. Samuel didn't like the sound of this and told our ancestor to please be careful, giving them a big hug goodbye before they set off. Tribe leader Jabari felt it was best that our ancestor made this last venture alone, as the Wikwa region was so isolated from all the others. That way, their forces weren't divided, and the rest of the tribes could stick together and begin to gather in the meantime, in case the Divine Pokémon chose to strike again.
A very smart plan indeed, but it did put a lot of pressure on our ancestor and trust in these pirates.
Well, Sifu was a strong personality but a great leader. He was respected by his crew and made our ancestor feel at home aboard his ship. As I said, they explored various small islands out at sea together in search of treasure before arriving in the Wikwa region. As these islands, much like the Akam region's tombs, were teeming with chests of Gimmighoul, but they found out shortly after setting sail at least one of these islands that young Amunet snuck on board the ship to look after our ancestor.
Oh no! A pirate ship is no place for a little girl like that. How did Sifu react?
Well, he wasn't happy, and after finding out on the open sea, he almost made her walk the plank. She was from the Akam region after all. Luckily, our ancestor vouched for her and said she was with him.
This Sifu guy sounds like a real jerk. So what was the Wikwa region like?
Well, this chapter isn't over yet. You see, just as the Wikwa region was in sight in the distance, Sifu had his pirate crew corner our ancestor and Amunet on the deck of the ship.
So he betrayed them?
I can't say I'm surprised. He's a pirate after all. That was a bit predictable.
But why? I thought he had a deal with tribe leader Jabari.
He did, but apparently he made an even better deal with the Divine Pokémon while in the Akam region.
Huh? I don't understand.
Remember when our ancestor saw his pirate ship off in the distance while in the Akam region, and we discussed how his pirate crew would often sneak into Akam's tombs to steal ancient treasure? Well, it turns out the Divine Pokémon were already on the alert looking for our ancestor at the time, and happened to catch Sifu and his pirates in the act after all. But instead of imprisoning them, the wise Horus Guy struck a deal with them as a contingency plan to capture our ancestor if they managed to escape Akam, knowing that they would likely have to venture out at sea at some point to reach the people of the Wikwa tribe.
So Horus Guy was 3 steps ahead of our ancestor?
Precisely. This was a deity of war after all, and wars are won not by warriors, but by tacticians. Horuskai was a brilliant tactician and extremely poised and patient compared to its peer, Cetera, who was sporadic, rash, and usually relied on fear or force to get their way. So Horuskai set Sifu and his crew free, even giving them some treasure in exchange for our ancestor, as the Divine Pokémon loathed their plans to unite the 6 kingdoms.
Wow! I had no idea all that was going on in the last chapter without us knowing. So, what did our ancestor do? They were obviously outnumbered.
First, they had to battle some of Sifu's pirate crew, who used Pokémon such as Pirat, Brandfish, Delmise, and Misfortune. Then, of course, they finally faced off against the cunning pirate captain, Sifu himself, and his ruthless water tribe Pokémon, such as the swashbuckling Brandfish, locked and loaded Octillery, Gruesome Gyarados, and of course, his vicious Vishar, who was given a soul ankh that Sifu acquired on one of his expeditions and able to be reborn after fainting into its vengeful rebirth form. This was definitely a challenge for our ancestor, especially as they didn't have any opportunities to heal after squaring off against Sifu's pirate crew. But our ancestor prevailed.
Yay! So, did they receive Sifu's water tribe wand after beating him?
Unfortunately not. Horuskai, who was apparently watching the battle from the sky above, spread its massive wings and started to create a hurricane out at sea. As the pirate ship was being beaten around by the rough sea waves, Horuskai descended onto the ship in an attempt to grab hold of our ancestor, who immediately ran into the lower quarters of the ship, with Horuskai chasing after them. As it tore through the ship with its massive talons and razor-sharp wings, water started to flood into the vessel and it began to sink.
Oh no!
And while all this was happening out at sea, the other divine Pokémon, Cetera, ended up at the peak of Mount Mbinjaro, using its power over Earth to cause the volcano to erupt after all. Tribe leader Jabari, Professor Acacia and Healer Sanyu, Tribe leader Diallo and Ganiru were all back atop Mount Mbinjaro at the time. So together, they all used their Pokémon to help get the people of the Nakup tribe off the mountain in time, as they barely made it as the lava destroyed their village while slowly descending down the mountain.
I'm glad they all made it out safely. That sounds scary.
Sadly, not all of them made it away. Cetera was infuriated with tribe leader Diallo for going against his word, as he had promised to serve the divine Pokémon. Ganiru tried to fight off Cetera, trying to give Diallo time to escape, but Diallo said he's already done enough damage. He doesn't want anyone else getting hurt because of what he's done. So Diallo turned himself into Cetera, but Cetera used its power to destroy the ground underneath Diallo's feet as he fell off the mountain to his demise.
He was in the afterlife.
Ganiru was upset to have lost his mentor once more. Now Ganiru was a tough guy, but apparently a tear rolled down his face as he said to himself that he forgave Diallo for all he had done.
It's a shame he never got to tell Diallo this.
Indeed, but now back to our ancestor out at sea, as they were attacked by Horuskai. Just as all hope seemed lost, as our ancestor was trapped on the sinking vessel trying to escape Horuskai's grasp, Sifu used his water tribe wand to call upon the wild water Pokémon like Welmer to give his crew an escape the sinking ship safely. Feeling remorse for betraying our ancestor and seeing the divine Pokémon had no concern for him or his crew, despite their deal, he even used his water tribe wand to call upon wild Crocus and Gyarados to try to fight Horuskai, at least long enough for our ancestor to escape. Thanks to this last-minute effort, they were able to sneak away in the mouth of a whale lord. But Horuskai, enraged after seeing them get away, made quick work of the Crocus and Gyarados, which at this point had Horuskai wrapped up in their tentacles and snake-like body respectively. Horuskai then flapped its wings, creating a gust of wind that blew Sifu off what was left of the ship and into raging waters, causing him to drop his water tribe wand on the deck. It slowly sunk into the ocean along with the wreckage, seemingly lost forever.
What a waste! I hope our ancestor was able to retrieve it. How else were they supposed to call upon the mythical Pokemon Elemage to help them?
You'll have to just wait and find out in the next chapter.
Uncle Obasi, please don't leave us hanging there. You have to continue. I'm dying to hear what happens next and all about the Wikwa region.
All right, if you insist.